You are listening to the It's Your Time podcast, and I'm your host, certified life coach Michelle Arnold Burke. In today's episode, we're discussing burnout, brain science, and self-trust, a mid-year reset for women in medical device. Welcome to the It's Your Time podcast, the podcast where busy professionals like you get the practical solutions and support you need to gain control of your schedule so you can strive to be the best in your career, but without the stress and overwhelm. If you're looking to increase your energy and decrease your stress, you are in the right place. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast, friends. Okay, we are officially at the halfway mark of the year, June 25th. So 6 months down, 6 to go. And if you work in medical device, I want to guess what the first half of your year actually felt like underneath the surface. Busy, yes. Productive, probably, but also quietly exhausting in a way that's hard to name. So today, I want to talk about why that exhaustion isn't random, and it isn't just that you have a lot going on. If you're in clinical or sales, in the field, in the OR, on the floor, on the road, there's a specific shape to the load you carry that doesn't show up cleanly on the calendar. We're going to name that. And we're going to use some neuroscience, a little bit of the woo that I love, some cognitive behavioral therapy, and actually do something about it, because some things you can't fully explain with just like a brain scan, right? So I'll say this up front. This episode isn't about fixing the entire industry in 15 minutes. It's about giving you language for something you've probably felt but never quite named, and one or two tools that you can actually use before your next hard meeting. And if you've been around recently and you've been here listening, you know that I've been talking a lot about performance rewritten. And you know that I build everything around what I call the RISE method. So resilient mindset, inner energy, success strategy, and empowered self-trust. And today we are going to touch on all four pieces because this is the actual work of lasting change, not a quick fix. We are here for the long game, the kind of work that ends up touching your wealth, your wellness, and what I love to call wild success, all defined by you in this season of your life. So let's talk about the weight that you're actually carrying. If you're in a clinical or field sales role in this industry, your job was never the job description. I always kind of chuckle when people reach out and want to talk about getting into medical device and ask what a typical day is like. No such thing, right? Because you're covering the territory. You're present for a case maybe at 6 a.m., often before the doctor, and maybe even there later than the doctor. And then maybe you're on a call with a surgeon late at night or a dinner meeting. There's no such thing as a typical day. You are the relationship, the one the account actually trusts, the one who gets the call when something goes wrong, the one expected to be calm, prepared, and likable in every single room that you walk into, and often you might even be the only woman in that room. And I'll be honest, I've lived this myself, right? I used to talk to my male counterparts about things that were going on for maybe our cases or our accounts and patients. And more than one occasion, I would mention something that I was doing and I would just get like a flat out F that, I'm not doing that from them. And here's one of the extreme ones. I had to go to a wake once and turn off a patient's pump. The patient was the one who passed. So I'm standing there trying to be discreet, do my job, act like I'm praying over them. Well, actually, I wasn't acting. I was saying a prayer, like, please, God, let this be quick and let me get out of here. But the thing is, it was all because I felt like it was the right thing to do for my doctor and for that family, right? And another time, same task at a morgue. Oh my goodness. There were multiple bodies. And when I went back to tell my male colleagues, they were genuinely like, effing no way, that would never happen. I would tell them no. Now, is that an extreme example or two? Sure. Will they be in the book? Of course. But I've talked to so many of you over the years, and the pattern holds up. Women in these roles tend to be the ones who say, of course, and go do the hard, uncomfortable human thing, where a lot of the guys just see it differently and they opt out. And none of that shows up on the quota sheet. It's relationship labor. It's emotional labor. It's the constant low hum of being on for clinicians, for patients, and for your own company all at the same time. And it's cumulative. It doesn't reset just because you cross the quarter. And it tracks with what's broadly understood about women in healthcare and clinical facing roles. Higher reported burnout rates than male peers, and a lot of why is exactly this kind of thing, stuff that's hard to put on paper. Managing the emotional temperature of a room, having less control over your schedule because the territory and the cases don't care what day it is, doing real clinical and relationship problem solving while still sometimes being treated like the people person in the room. So by the time you hit June, it's not surprising you're running on fumes in a way that doesn't match your numbers. You've been doing your actual job, plus the quieter job of being the one who shows up for the hard human parts of it. That's worth naming plainly, because naming it is the first step to actually doing something about it. And before we do something about it, let's talk a little bit about the neuroscience. What is that exhaustion actually doing in your body? Let's kind of go under the hood for a minute. This is the inner energy piece of RISE. You can't manage energy that you don't understand, and most of us were never taught how this actually works. When you clock something as a threat, even a low-grade chronic threat like, I have to walk into this account and be the calm, capable one again, your amygdala lights up. That's the part of your brain whose entire job is threat detection. It triggers your stress response, cortisol, norepinephrine, the whole cascade of chemicals. Useful if you're being chased by something, less useful when the threat is your third tense handoff this week with a surgeon's office or a frustrated provider. Here's the part that matters for today. The amygdala doesn't run the show alone. Your prefrontal cortex, the newer, smarter reasoning part of your brain, is supposed to keep the amygdala in check. Neuroscientists call this top-down regulation. The prefrontal cortex looks at the situation and says, okay, this is frustrating, but it's not life-threatening. Let's think this through. And when that regulation is working well, you feel stressed but capable. When it's not, when the threat signals are chronic and the recovery time between them keeps shrinking, the amygdala stays louder than the prefrontal cortex can even manage. That's the biology of burnout. It's not a character flaw. It's an under-resourced regulation system. And this is also exactly why just relax has never once in the history of the world worked on anyone. You can't talk your amygdala down with logic alone. That's the prefrontal cortex show, and it needs the right tools to do it. And it compounds. Chronic low recovery stress keeps cortisol elevated for longer than it's meant to be. That affects sleep, which affects your prefrontal cortex capacity the next day, which means you walk into tomorrow's frustrating meeting with less regulation available than you had yesterday. That's the slow slide from stressful quarter to I don't even recognize myself anymore. It's not in your head. It's in your chemistry, which brings us to CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. And the next piece is the resilient mindset part of RISE. And I want to be clear, resilience isn't about gritting your teeth and pushing through. It's a skill you build on purpose in your actual brain. Cognitive behavioral therapy is built almost entirely around strengthening that prefrontal cortex to amygdala connection. Brain imaging studies on people doing CBT show exactly what you would hope. More activity in the prefrontal cortex, less reactivity in the amygdala over time. The mechanism is something called cognitive reappraisal, consciously reevaluating a situation to change its emotional charge without pretending the situation is fine. And here's how that works in practice. Let's say your trigger thought is, I have to be the calm one again. I have to do it all. A reappraisal doesn't deny what's true. The pattern is real. It adds a second layer underneath it. So try this on for structure. This is hard, and it's also evidence that I notice things other people miss. That's a skill, not a burden. Or, I'm tired of being the one who catches this, and the fact that I catch it means I'm good at my job, even when it's not recognized. Notice what that does. It doesn't lie to you. It doesn't say, oh, everything's fine. It just gives your prefrontal cortex a true, more complete sentence to work with instead of the exhausted, all or nothing one that your amygdala hands you by default. Do that enough times in real moments, and you're literally building the new neural pathway that makes the next version of this easier. And another thing to help revolves around the idea of self-trust and what some might call the woo, but I will tell you, the more I study it, the more science I see to back it. And that's the importance of nervous system regulation. Your nervous system has been trying to protect you all year, in fact, for your entire life. And every time it fired up over something at work, it wasn't malfunctioning. It was doing exactly what it's designed to do, just with old wiring that doesn't know the difference between a saber-toothed tiger and a frustrating Tuesday case. So I want you to try this just for a second, treating your body's signals as information instead of inconvenience. That tightness in your chest before a hard meeting, that's not weakness. That's your intuition and your biology agreeing on something before your conscious mind catches up. Same with the pit in your stomach. And a lot of the women I talk to in clinical and field roles have incredible instincts about an account that's going to be headed sideways, about a case that needs an extra check-in, or about a clinician that needs a phone call before they actually get the email. On a personal level, for the next 6 months, I want you to practice trusting that instinct first, even if you build the case after. Your gut isn't woo nonsense layered on top of good judgment. It's pattern recognition running faster than your conscious brain can narrate. Treat it like the asset that it is. So here's the benefit. Women who build this kind of empowered self-trust are the ones who eventually advocate for the title, for the raise, for the territory that they actually want, because they're not running on empty when the opportunity shows up. Self-trust isn't just a feel-good practice. It's load-bearing for the wealth and the wild success that you're working towards, not just the wellness. And let's talk about the practice next. And this is success strategy, the piece of rise that I think is so important, because none of the first 3 pieces stick without something concrete and repeatable. So here's what I want you to actually do this week. One practice takes 5 minutes tops. Step 1, name the moment. Next time you feel that familiar flare, maybe it's frustration, fatigue, the here we go again feeling, pause and just say to yourself, amygdala's online. That's it. Naming it activates the prefrontal cortex just by labeling the experience instead of being fully inside of it. Step 2, reappraise it out loud or in writing using the structure from earlier. This is hard and blank. Fill in the blank with something true. Step 3, ask your body one question before you ask your brain anything else. What is this sensation telling me? And I know this might be the woo part of it if you're not familiar, but when you ask the question and actually listen to yourself, you will be so surprised at the information that you find out. You don't have to act on the answer immediately. Just let it all count as data. And if you want a physical anchor for all of this, just add one slow breath cycle in. So inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, and then exhale for 6. When you exhale longer than you inhale, it allows your nervous system to understand that you are safe. It takes you out of threat mode, and it gives your prefrontal cortex a slightly bigger window to do its job. Pair it with the naming step and the reappraisal step, and you've got a complete 30-second reset. And here's your journal prompt for the back half of the year. Where in my work have I been the one holding everyone's calm? And what would it look like to get support, credit, or rest instead of just taking it all on? Sit with that one. Don't rush the answer in one sitting. Start paying attention to what it would look like if you were able to get support. Okay, 6 months from now, I don't want you arriving at December carrying the same invisible weight that you're carrying into July. The load is real, and it's not all yours to carry alone. But the way your nervous system responds to it, that part you actually have some leverage over, especially with the neuroscience, with the CBT tools, and with a little self-trust in what your body already knows. You can make tremendous changes. That's the work behind Performance Rewritten, and honestly, it's why I'm in this for the long game. Resilient mindset, inner energy, success strategy, empowered self-trust. Rise isn't a one-time fix. It's the rewrite. Doing this work piece by piece is how lasting change actually happens, and it's how wealth, wellness, and wild success stop being 3 separate goals and start being one connected practice. That's the halfway mark, not a deadline, a check-in. So let's take it as one. Okay, friends, as always, please share this with someone who can use this help heading into the back end of the year. That's what I have for you today. Let's meet back next week. But for now, lead your life with intention because it's your time. Make it a great day. Take care. Did you know you can take this work to a deeper level with me one-on-one? Go to michelleburkecoaching.com and click on Get Started to begin.